Captain Marcus Reed stood on the bridge of the Cipher, his weathered hands gripping the worn command rail. Through the main view screen, he watched as sleek, modern ships of the Earth Alliance fleet glided past. Their hulls gleamed with fresh paint and new technology. In contrast, his ship, the Cipher 8, was a relic from another era. "Look at them," said Engineer Thomas, stepping up beside Reed. "All shine, no soul." Reed nodded. Thomas had been with the ship almost as long as he had, 15 years of service on a vessel that the Alliance had tried to retire at least 3 times. "Captain," called Communications Officer Miller from her station. "Incoming message from command." "Put it through," Reed said, straightening his uniform jacket. The view screen changed to show Admiral Parker's stern face. "Captain Reed, how's that old bucket holding together?" Reed forced a smile. "Still flying, sir. The Cipher 8 has never let us down." "That's about to be tested. I'm sending you coordinates for your final mission." Reed felt a chill at the words "final mission." The crew had known this was coming, but hearing it said out loud made it real. "We're being decommissioned then?" Reed asked. "After this mission, yes. The Cipher 8 will be retired and your crew reassigned. Some outdated equipment simply can't keep up with modern threats." Thomas made a small noise of disagreement but stayed quiet. "What's the mission, sir?" Reed asked. "We've detected strange energy readings at the edge of charted space. Probably nothing. Could be a sensor malfunction or natural phenomenon. But we need someone to check it out." Reed understood what wasn't being said. This was busy work, a meaningless final task for an outdated ship before it was scrapped. "Sending the coordinates now," Parker said. "Complete the mission and return to Earth Station for decommissioning." Parker out. The screen went dark, and the bridge was silent for a moment. "Well," Reed finally said, "it seems we have one last adventure. They're just trying to keep us out of the way," Security Chief Davis said from his tactical station, "sending us to chase ghosts while the real ships do the real work." Reed turned to face his bridge crew. They were all veterans, people who had chosen to stay with the Cipher 8 rather than transfer to newer ships. They had become more like family than colleagues. "Maybe so," Reed said, "but we'll do what we've always done. Complete the mission and prove that experience counts for more than new technology." He turned to the helm. "Officer Bryant, set course for these coordinates. Maximum speed." "Aye, Captain." As the ship hummed to life and prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, Reed sat in his command chair, running his hand along the armrest where the padding had worn thin from years of use. Later that evening, Reed met with his senior officers in the ship's small conference room. The room, like much of the Cipher 8, showed its age: scratched table surface, outdated display screens, and lighting panels that occasionally flickered. "Let's talk about what we know," Reed said. "Miller, what information did command send about these energy readings?" Miller, a woman with short gray hair and quick eyes, brought up a display. "Not much, Captain. Just coordinates and basic sensor data. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database, which means it could be something new and important," Thomas said, leaning forward. The engineer was always excited by the unknown. "Or it could be nothing," Davis countered. The security chief was naturally suspicious, a trait that had saved the ship more than once. "Either way," Reed said, "we're going to investigate properly. Thomas, I want you to prepare the ship's sensors for detailed scans. Davis, run a full weapons check, just in case. The weapons systems are outdated compared to what the fleet has now," Davis noted. Thomas smiled. "Maybe on paper, but they don't know about our modifications." Over the years, Thomas had made numerous unofficial upgrades to the Cipher 8, changes that weren't in any official record. Command would never have approved many of them, which is why they were kept secret. The ship might look outdated, but it had capabilities that even the newest vessels didn't. "Miller," Reed continued, "keep monitoring for any additional communications from command or any other ships in that sector." There shouldn't be any, Miller said. The coordinates are far from regular patrol routes or trade lanes. Reed nodded slowly. Which makes me wonder why they're sending us all the way out there for what they claim is probably nothing. The officers exchanged knowing looks. They had all served long enough to recognize when they weren't being told the whole truth. Captain, Bryant said quietly, do you think this could be related to the rumors about the Vorn? The Vorn were an alien species that had been in a tense standoff with humanity for nearly a decade. Not quite war, but far from peace. What rumors? Davis asked. I heard from a friend on the Stargazer that there have been unusual Vorn movements near the outer sectors, Bryant explained. Nothing official, just whispers. Reed considered this. It would explain why command is being vague. They don't want to start a panic if the Vorn are up to something. And they might be sending us because we're expendable, Davis finished. Or, Thomas suggested with a hint of pride, because despite what they say publicly, they know the Cipher 8 can handle itself in a tough situation. Reed stood up and walked to the small viewport. Stars streaked by as the ship traveled through space. Whatever the reason, we'll be ready. This ship may be old, but it's far from outdated where it counts. He turned back to his officers. Get some rest. We arrive at the coordinates in 10 hours. As the meeting ended and the officers filed out, Reed remained in the conference room alone. He pulled out a small data chip from his pocket. His private orders from Admiral Wilson, Parker's superior. Unlike Parker, Wilson had always respected the Cipher 8 and its crew. Reed inserted the chip into a reader and encrypted text appeared on the screen. Marcus, the official mission is cover. What you're really looking for is evidence of a Vorn superweapon. Intelligence suggests they've discovered something ancient and powerful. Your outdated ship might be our best asset. The Vorn won't consider you a threat. Be careful, old friend. The fate of the Alliance may depend on what you find. Reed deleted the message and crushed the chip. He had suspected there was more to this mission, but a potential superweapon raised the stakes considerably. The Cipher 8 might be heading toward its final mission, but Reed was determined it would be one that mattered. Maybe then, people would stop calling his ship outdated. He straightened his uniform and headed for the bridge. The crew didn't need to know everything yet. Better to let them rest while they could. Tomorrow, they would face whatever waited for them at the edge of known space, and Reed knew one thing for certain. Outdated or not, the Cipher 8 and its crew wouldn't go quietly into retirement. The alarm woke Captain Reed from a light sleep. He had dozed off in his chair after reviewing old mission logs, searching for any previous encounters with the Vorn that might help their current mission. Captain, to the bridge. Miller's voice came through the comm system. We're approaching the coordinates. Reed straightened his uniform and made his way through the familiar corridors of the Cipher 8. The ship had been his home for so long that he could navigate it with his eyes closed, feeling every vibration and sound like they were extensions of his own body. When he stepped onto the bridge, his crew was already at their stations, faces lit by the glow of control panels. Report, Reed said, settling into his command chair. We're dropping out of faster-than-light travel now, Bryant announced from the helm. The view screen showed the streaking stars slow and settle into distant points of light. Sensors active, Thomas said from the engineering station. Running full spectrum scans. Reed leaned forward. What are we looking at? The view screen adjusted to show what appeared to be empty space, but as the sensors focused, something began to take shape. A massive structure floating against the blackness of space. What is that? Davis asked, voicing what everyone was thinking. Thomas worked his controls, enhancing the image. It's artificial, Captain. Approximately 2 kilometers in length. The structure is made of materials I've never seen before. Our sensors can barely read it. The object on the screen was unlike anything they had encountered. It had a circular design with a hollow center, like a massive ring or gateway. Strange markings covered its surface, glowing with soft blue light. Is it Vorn? Reed asked. Miller shook her head. The design doesn't match any known foreign technology. This is something else entirely. The energy readings are off the charts, Thomas added. It's putting out more power than our ship's reactor, but I can't identify the source. Reed stood and approached the view screen. Take us closer, Bryant. Slow approach. Davis, keep weapons on standby, but do not power them up yet. The Cipher 8 edged toward the mysterious structure. As they drew closer, the blue glow pulsed subtly, as if responding to their presence. Captain, Miller called out, I'm detecting unusual radiation patterns. They're forming what looks like a data stream. Can you decode it? Reed asked. Miller worked at her station. It's not like any communication protocol I've seen, but there's a pattern to it. Give me time, and I might be able to figure something out. Reed nodded. Do what you can. Captain, Thomas interrupted, his voice tense. I'm detecting something else. A gravitational distortion about half a light hour away. Something's coming. Reed turned to Davis. Identify. Davis's fingers flew over his console. Ships. Multiple signatures. They're using some kind of cloaking technology, but our modified sensors can detect their engine emissions. Vorn? Reed asked, though he already knew the answer. Yes, sir. A battle group. 1 command ship and at least 6 support vessels. They're heading straight for us. Reed's mind raced. The Vorn were a militaristic species, proud and aggressive. If they were sending a battle group, they clearly valued this strange structure. Time until they reach us? Reed asked. At their current speed, 15 minutes, Bryant reported. Options? Reed looked at his senior officers. We could try to hide behind the structure, Davis suggested. They'll detect us eventually, Miller countered. We could send a message to command, Bryant offered. Thomas shook his head. The nearest Earth Alliance ship is days away. We're on our own. Reed walked a slow circle around the bridge, considering their situation. The Cipher 8 was outgunned and outmatched. Even with Thomas's modifications, they couldn't hope to defeat a Vorn battle group. Captain, Miller said suddenly, I've made some progress with the data stream. It's not a communication. It's more like a doorway. Explain, Reed demanded. The radiation pattern is creating a stable field in the center of the ring structure. It's similar to the theories about dimensional gateways that scientists have been working on for decades. Thomas moved to Miller's station and studied her readings. She's right. This thing isn't a weapon. It's a gateway to somewhere else. Can we use it? Reed asked. Thomas and Miller exchanged uncertain looks. Theoretically, Thomas said, but we have no idea where it leads. 10 minutes until Vorn intercept, Davis announced. Reed faced a decision that would determine not just their fate, but potentially the fate of Earth. If the Vorn captured this technology, they could use it against the Alliance. Miller, can you activate the gateway? Reed asked. I think so, she replied. The data stream contains what appears to be activation sequences. Do it, Reed ordered. Bryant, position us directly in front of the center of the ring. As Miller worked to decode the activation sequence, the rest of the bridge crew watched in silence. The Vorn ships were growing closer by the minute. Captain, Davis said quietly. What are you planning? Reed met his security chief's gaze. Sometimes, the only way out is through. Understanding dawned on Davis's face. You're going to take us through the gateway. It's a risk, Reed acknowledged. But our options are limited. We can surrender to the Vorn, try to fight and certainly lose, or take a chance on the unknown. The old Cipher 8 surprising everyone again, Thomas said with a grim smile. I like it. 5 minutes to Vorn intercept, Bryant reported. They're increasing speed. Miller, Reed asked. I've identified the activation sequence, she replied. Sending it now. The bridge crew watched as the blue glow of the structure intensified. The hollow center began to fill with swirling energy, like water spinning down a drain, but in reverse. Colors that none of them had names for spiraled and danced. It's working, Miller said, her voice filled with awe. "The Vorn are hailing us," Davis reported. "They're ordering us to move away from the structure." No response. Reed ordered, "Bryant, take us in. Full impulse power." Bryant hesitated for just a moment. "Sir, we don't know what's on the other side." Reed placed a hand on his helmsman's shoulder. "That's true. But we do know what's behind us. Sometimes the unknown is better than certain defeat." Bryant nodded and set the course. "All hands secure for possible turbulence," Reed announced shipwide. "We're about to make history." The Cipher-8 moved forward, its aging hull reflecting the strange energies emanating from the gateway. As they approached the swirling center, the ship began to vibrate. "Structural integrity holding," Thomas reported, "but just barely." 2 minutes to Vorn intercept, Davis announced. "They're charging weapons." "Steady," Reed said, gripping his command chair. "Steady." The nose of the Cipher-8 touched the energy field, causing ripples like a stone dropped in a pond. Then, slowly, the ship began to pass through. Energy levels spiking. Thomas shouted over the growing noise of the straining ship. Light filled the bridge, blinding and intense. Reed felt a strange sensation, as if his body was being pulled in all directions at once. The last thing he heard was Davis's voice. "The Vorn are firing." Then everything went white, and the Cipher-8, the ship they called outdated, disappeared from known space. Admiral Wilson stood at the large window in Earth Alliance Command Headquarters, watching ships come and go from the orbital station. His reflection showed a man with tired eyes and a deeply lined face, the result of 30 years of military service and the weight of countless difficult decisions. "Sir," his assistant said from the doorway, "they're ready for you in the Situation Room." Wilson nodded and straightened his uniform. He had been dreading this meeting since the first report came in 12 hours ago. The Situation Room was filled with high-ranking officers when Wilson entered. Their conversations stopped immediately, all eyes turning to him. "What do we know?" Wilson asked without preamble. Colonel Hayes, head of strategic operations, stood and activated the main display. The Cipher-8 reached its assigned coordinates at 700 hours yesterday. They maintained regular communication until 7:42, when they reported discovering an unknown structure. The display showed the last transmission data from the Cipher-8, including grainy images of a massive ring-shaped object. Their final transmission came at 8:03, Hayes continued. After that, nothing. No distress signal, no debris field, nothing to indicate what happened. The ship simply vanished. "Could it have been destroyed?" asked General Roberts. "Unlikely," Hayes replied. "Even if the ship was completely vaporized, which is beyond any known weapon technology, we would detect energy readings or radiation signatures. There's nothing." "What about the Vorn?" Wilson asked, though he already suspected the answer. Hayes changed the display to show sensor data from a nearby monitoring station. A Vorn battle group was detected entering the area approximately 10 minutes after we lost contact with the Cipher-8. They remained for several hours, then departed. "So they either destroyed our ship or captured it," Roberts said. "If they had captured or destroyed the Cipher-8, they would be broadcasting it across every channel." Wilson countered. "The Vorn never miss an opportunity for propaganda." "Perhaps they're keeping it quiet because of what the Cipher-8 found," Hayes suggested. Wilson nodded. "The structure. What do we know about it?" Hayes looked uncomfortable. "Very little, sir. The Cipher-8's data transmission was incomplete. We know it's not of Earth or Vorn origin. Its power output was substantial, beyond anything we've seen before." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. An unknown alien structure with immense power, now potentially in Vorn hands. "The diplomatic office received this an hour ago," Wilson said, inserting a data chip into the table's console. The display changed to show a Vorn diplomat, their scaled skin and vertical pupils unmistakable. "Earth Alliance Command," the Vorn began. We formally protest your illegal weapons testing in neutral space. Your vessel activated a device of unknown power near our borders. We demand an explanation and reparations for this clear act of aggression." Wilson stopped the recording. "They think we were testing a weapon. Were we?" someone asked quietly. Wilson's expression hardened. The Cipher 8 was sent to investigate anomalous readings, nothing more. Captain Reed had clear orders not to engage with any technology they found. But Wilson knew Reed well enough to doubt he would sit idle if the Vorn appeared. The captain was resourceful and dedicated to protecting Earth, sometimes too dedicated. "We need answers," Wilson declared. "I want a task force assembled to return to those coordinates. Full sensor package, armed escort." "The Vorn won't like that," Roberts warned. "I don't care what the Vorn like," Wilson replied. "I have a missing ship and crew." As the meeting continued, a young analyst named James sat at his workstation several floors below, reviewing the Cipher 8's final transmissions. He had been assigned to do a standard data analysis, but something caught his attention. James enhanced the audio from the ship's last moments. Most of it was standard communication, but beneath that, barely audible, was another signal. He isolated it and ran it through various filters. "That's odd," he muttered. The hidden signal wasn't random noise. It had a pattern, a repeating sequence of tones that didn't match any standard Earth Alliance communication protocol. James pulled up the record of Captain Reed's service history. Reed had served in intelligence before taking command of the Cipher 8. He would know old emergency codes. James's fingers flew over his console as he compared the strange signal to outdated intelligence protocols. Finally, he found a match. A code so old it hadn't been used in 15 years. Decoded, the message was simple but baffling. "Not destroyed. Gateway active. Crossing THRES isolated." James sat back, staring at the words on his screen. If his analysis was correct, the Cipher 8 hadn't been destroyed or captured. They had gone somewhere else. He hesitated only briefly before sending his findings directly to Admiral Wilson. Wilson dismissed the meeting and returned to his office, his mind racing with possible scenarios and contingency plans. When he saw the urgent message from the analysis division, he opened it immediately. 5 minutes later, Wilson locked his office door and activated his secure communication terminal. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Dr. Lena Wright, head of the Alliance's Classified Dimensional Physics Division. "Admiral," she greeted him. "This is unexpected." "Doctor, what do you know about gateways, specifically interdimensional ones?" Wright's expression changed from surprise to caution. "Such technology is theoretical at best. We've had some success in lab conditions creating microscopic connections between points in spacetime, but nothing stable or large enough to be practical." "What if someone else had succeeded where we failed?" Wilson asked. "Someone else? You mean the Vorn?" "I mean someone else entirely. An unknown civilization with technology far beyond ours or the Vorn's." Wright was silent for a moment. If such technology existed, it would represent the most significant discovery in human history. The ability to move between dimensions would change everything. Travel, resources, possibly even our understanding of reality itself. And if a ship, say, an older model Earth Alliance vessel, were to enter such a gateway. Understanding dawned on Wright's face. Is that what happened to the Cipher 8? Wilson sent her the decoded message. According to this, yes. Wright studied the message, then looked back at Wilson. If they did enter a gateway, there's no way to know where or when they ended up. They could be anywhere in the multiverse, but they might still be alive, Wilson said. Possibly, Wright conceded, but finding them would be like finding a specific grain of sand on all the beaches of Earth. Wilson's expression hardened with determination. Then we'd better start looking. After ending the call, Wilson stood at his window again, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Cipher 8, the ship everyone called outdated, and its crew might still be alive. traveling through dimensions no human had ever seen before. "Find your way home, Marcus," Wilson whispered to the stars. "And until then, I'll make sure no one forgets about you." He turned and activated his secure terminal again. This time, he would assemble a team, not a standard search and rescue, but a covered operation to investigate the gateway and perhaps, somehow, open a path for the Cipher-8 to return. The ship might be outdated by modern standards, but its crew was among the best the Alliance had ever produced. If anyone could survive the impossible, it was them. Pain was the first thing Captain Reed felt when he opened his eyes. His head throbbed, and a warm trickle of blood ran down his temple. The bridge of the Cipher-8 was dark, lit only by emergency lights and sparking control panels. "Status report," he called out, his voice hoarse. He pulled himself up from where he had fallen next to his command chair. Around him, his crew was slowly regaining consciousness. Thomas was already at his engineering station, working to restore power. "Main power is down," Thomas reported. "Life support is running on emergency backups. Hull integrity is at 82%. "Communications?" Reed asked, looking toward Miller's station. Miller, wiping blood from a cut on her forehead, checked her controls. "Communications are offline, Captain. I can't even tell if the system is damaged or if there's simply nothing to communicate with." "Sensors." Davis had managed to get a partial system working. "Limited function, sir. But what I can see." His voice trailed off. "Report, Davis," Reed insisted. "We're not where we were, sir. The stars are all wrong. Constellations don't match any in our database." Reed moved to look at Davis's display. The security chief was right. The star patterns visible outside the ship were completely unfamiliar. "The gateway," Reed said quietly. "It worked. But where are we?" Bryant asked from the helm, which was now flickering back to life as Thomas rerouted power. More importantly, Miller added, "Can we get back?" Reed had no answers for them yet. "Thomas, focus on repairs. First priority is sensors. We need to know what's out there. Then communications and propulsion." "Already on it, Captain," Thomas replied. "But it's going to take time. Some of the systems were fried by whatever energy field we passed through." Reed nodded. "Everyone else, help Thomas or tend to the injured. We'll regroup in 1 hour." 3 hours later, the Cipher-8 had limped to the shadow of a small moon in an unknown star system. Basic systems were functioning again, though many were running at reduced capacity. The crew had gathered in the conference room to assess their situation. Based on stellar positioning and spectrographic analysis, Davis explained, pointing to a display, "We're still in what appears to be the Milky Way galaxy. However, several star systems that should be there are missing, and others we've never recorded are present." "A parallel dimension," Thomas suggested. "The gateway must have sent us to a reality similar to our own, but with differences." "Is there any sign of Earth?" Reed asked. Davis hesitated. "There's a solar system approximately 15 light-years from our position that matches Earth's sun. But without better sensors, I can't confirm if Earth itself exists there." "What about the gateway?" Miller asked. "Can we find our way back?" "The gateway structure doesn't appear to exist in this location in this dimension," Davis said. "At least not that our sensors can detect." Reed considered their options. With limited fuel and damaged systems, they couldn't travel far. But staying in one place meant risking discovery by whoever or whatever existed in this dimension. "We need more information," Reed decided. "Set course for the Earth-like solar system, maximum sustainable speed. We'll approach cautiously and observe before making contact, if Earth exists here." It took the damaged Cipher-8 nearly a week to reach the solar system. As they approached, their improved sensors confirmed what they had hoped for. Earth existed in this dimension too. But as they drew closer, the differences became apparent. "Captain," Davis called out, his voice tense, "I'm detecting large artificial structures in orbit around Earth, dozens of them. Design matches nothing in our database. Military installations? Reed asked. Based on power signatures and configuration, yes. And there's more. The lunar colonies are gone. Instead, there appears to be a massive mining operation. Reed ordered the ship to hold position just beyond Pluto's orbit. Can we monitor their communications? Miller worked at her station. I'm picking up transmissions, but the encryption is unlike anything I've seen. Give me time to analyze it. Hours passed as Miller worked on breaking the encryption. Finally, she succeeded in accessing what appeared to be a news broadcast from Earth. The crew gathered around the view screen, falling silent as the images appeared. Earth was still recognizable, but many cities appeared damaged or rebuilt in an unfamiliar style. The people looked human, but their clothing and appearance were slightly different from what the crew knew. Most shocking was the news itself. Reports of resistance fighters being captured, of alien governors imposing new restrictions, of humans being relocated for labor assignments. They're occupied, Reed said quietly. Earth is under alien control in this dimension. Can we identify the aliens? Thomas asked. Miller adjusted the feed to show footage of the occupiers. Tall, scaled beings with vertical pupils, unmistakably Vorn, but with subtle differences from the ones they knew. It's the Vorn, Davis confirmed, but not exactly our Vorn. Different evolution in this dimension, Thomas suggested. The same species, but their history took a different path. Reed watched the broadcast with a heavy heart. In their dimension, Earth and the Vorn were locked in a cold war, each side wary, but neither willing to risk open conflict. Here, the war had happened, and humanity had lost. Captain, Bryant said suddenly, I'm picking up a ship approaching our position. It's small, possibly a scout vessel. Have they detected us? Reed asked. I don't think so. Their course seems predetermined, like a patrol route. Reed made a quick decision. Intercept course, minimal power. Let's see who they are without revealing ourselves. The Cipher-8 moved silently toward the approaching vessel. As they drew closer, they could see it was indeed a small patrol ship, but not of foreign design. It appeared to be human-made, but cobbled together from mismatched parts. They're transmitting a coded signal, Miller reported. I think it's some kind of identification broadcast. Should I respond? Reed hesitated. Responding could give away their position, but remaining silent might make the patrol ship investigate. Send a standard Earth Alliance greeting, Reed decided. Let's see how they react. Miller transmitted the message. For long moments, there was no response. Then the patrol ship changed course, heading directly for them. They're powering weapons, Davis warned. Hold position, Reed ordered. Shields up, but do not arm weapons. The view screen activated, showing the face of the patrol ship's captain, a human woman with a scared face and hard eyes. Unknown vessel, she said, her voice tense. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed. That was an Earth Alliance code from before the fall. Who are you? Reed stepped forward. I am Captain Marcus Reed of the Earth Alliance vessel Cipher-8. We are not from your dimension. We came through a gateway and are seeking information. The woman's expression changed from suspicion to shock. The Cipher-8 was destroyed 12 years ago during the first Vorn invasion. If this is some kind of Vorn trick. Not a trick, Reed assured her. In our dimension, Earth and the Vorn are in a stalemate. We accidentally traveled through a gateway while investigating the strange structure. The woman was silent for a long moment, studying Reed and the bridge of the Cipher-8. Finally, she spoke again. If you're telling the truth, you need to come with us immediately. The Vorn patrol will be here within an hour. Where would you take us? Reed asked. To what's left of the resistance, she replied, and to someone who might believe your story, the only surviving officer from this dimension's Cipher-8. The resistance base was hidden deep inside an asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. As the Cipher-8 followed the patrol ship into a concealed hangar, Reed marveled at the ingenuity of the humans who had created this secret fortress. They've hollowed out the entire asteroid, Thomas said, examining the sensor readings, power systems, life support, even artificial gravity, all hidden from Vorn scanners. The Cipher-8 settled onto the landing pad, and Reed ordered the crew to prepare for contact. They had no idea what kind of reception awaited them in this alternate dimension. When the airlock opened, they found themselves facing a dozen armed resistance fighters. At the front stood the woman from the patrol ship, and beside her, an older man with a mechanical right arm and familiar eyes that widened in shock when he saw Reed. "It really is you," the man said in a voice Reed recognized despite its rougher edge. Reed stared at his counterpart from this dimension, an older, battle-scarred version of himself. "You're me," the other Reed nodded, "or who you might have become in a world where the Vorn won." He turned to the fighters. "Stand down. They're not a threat." As the weapons lowered, the two Reeds studied each other. Same face, different destinies. "Call me Marcus," the counterpart said, "since we can't both be Captain Reed. And this is Commander Jackson, my second in command." The scared woman nodded curtly. "You should come with us. The Council will want to hear your story." The Resistance Council chamber was a converted cargo hold, filled with maps, communication equipment, and a large table where a dozen people now sat listening to Reed explain their journey through the gateway. "In our dimension," Reed concluded, "Earth and the Vorn maintain an uneasy peace. Neither side has a clear advantage. That changed here when they found the Ancient One's technology," Marcus said. "Weapons beyond anything we could counter. The war lasted less than a year." "The Ancient Ones?" Miller asked. "The civilization that built the gateway," Commander Jackson explained. "They left structures like it throughout the galaxy millions of years ago. The Vorn found one and used it to enhance their weapons technology." Thomas leaned forward eagerly. "But the gateway we came through, it still exists in our dimension. Could we use it to help you?" A scientist on the council shook her head. "The gateways are paired systems. The one in this dimension was destroyed by the Vorn after they used it, to prevent any other species from gaining the same advantage." "Then how do we get back home?" Bryant asked the question on everyone's mind. Marcus exchanged looks with the council members. "We might have a way. We've been working on recreating gateway technology using what we've learned from Ancient One artifacts. It's not complete, but with your ship's data on the original gateway. You want to rebuild it," Reed realized. "Not just to send us home, but to give your resistance an advantage." "Exactly," Marcus confirmed. "Your ship, your outdated Cipher-8, might be exactly what we need." Reed's crew looked to him. The decision was complex. Helping could further entangle them in this dimension's war, but refusing would leave both them and the resistance with few options. "Show us what you have," Reed decided. Days turned into weeks as the crew of the Cipher-8 worked alongside the resistance. Thomas and the resistance engineers analyzed the ship's sensor logs of the gateway, while Miller helped decrypt Vorn communications to learn more about their security protocols. "There's something else," Thomas told Reed one evening. "Something unusual about why our ship was able to pass through the gateway safely." "What do you mean?" Reed asked. "Modern Earth Alliance ships have quantum-aligned shield systems. According to the resistance scientists, those systems would have catastrophically interacted with the gateway energy field. But the Cipher-8 shields are older," Reed realized. Thomas nodded. "Our outdated technology saved us, and it might be the key to defeating the Vorn here." The plan came together piece by piece. The resistance would use the Cipher-8's older technology to create weapons and shields that the Vorn couldn't easily detect or counter. Meanwhile, the partial gateway they had been building would be completed using the data from Reed's ship. "It won't be stable for long," the lead scientist explained during the final briefing. "Maybe enough for your ship to pass through, but that's it." "What about your people?" Reed asked Marcus. "We'll use what we've learned from you to continue the fight," Marcus replied. "Your shield and weapons designs will give us a real chance against the Vorn." "You could stay," Commander Jackson suggested. Your crew, your ship. You could make a difference here. Reed looked at his crew. They had discussed this possibility privately. Staying would mean never seeing their homes again, but they could help turn the tide for humanity in this dimension. Bryant spoke for all of them. Our dimension needs to know about the gateway, about the Ancient Ones. If the Vorn in our reality find this technology first. Reed nodded. We need to go back, but we'll leave you with everything we have. Technical specifications, tactical data, all of it. Marcus understood. One Cipher-8 might be gone from this dimension, but another brought us hope. Maybe that's how it was meant to be. The day of departure came too quickly. The Resistance had installed the gateway components in a remote section of the asteroid belt, far from Vorn patrols. The Cipher-8, repaired and improved with Resistance modifications, hovered before the incomplete ring structure. Gateway powering up, Thomas reported from engineering. Energy patterns matched those from our original crossing. Reed opened a channel to the Resistance base. Marcus, are you receiving? Loud and clear, his counterpart replied. Gateway is at 60% power and rising. Remember, you'll have only moments to cross once it stabilizes. Reed looked around at his crew, now at their stations and ready for the journey home. Whatever happens, it's been an honor to serve with all of you. This mission revealed more than we ever expected, and you've all performed admirably. Vorn ships detected. Davis suddenly called out. 3 cruisers heading this way. They must have detected the gateway power signature. Time to activation, Reed asked. 2 minutes, Thomas replied. The Vorn will be in weapons range in 3. Reed made a quick decision. Marcus, we're going to draw them away from the gateway. Once it's active, we'll circle back. That's cutting it close, Marcus warned. The old Cipher-8 has a few tricks left, Reed assured him. This ship may be outdated, but it still has fight in it. The Cipher-8 accelerated away from the gateway, deliberately letting the Vorn detect them. As expected, the enemy ships changed course to pursue. They're taking the bait, Davis confirmed. Now, Bryant, Reed ordered. Execute pattern Omega. The helmsman grinned as he activated the maneuver they had practiced. The Cipher-8 cut its engines, spun 180 degrees, and fired its afterburners directly at the lead Vorn ship. The unexpected move caused the Vorn vessels to scatter, buying precious seconds. Gateway at full power, Thomas shouted. It's stable. Reed ordered a hard turn back toward the gateway. The swirling energy field had formed in the center of the incomplete ring, their door home. The Vorn are regrouping, Davis warned. Firing range in 30 seconds. All power to engines, Reed commanded. Straight through the middle. The Cipher-8 raced toward the gateway as energy blasts from the Vorn ships began to fill space around them. Just before they reached the threshold, Reed sent one final message. Thank you, Marcus. Keep fighting. In at least one universe, humanity will never surrender. Then the Cipher-8 hit the energy field. Light engulfed the ship, and once again, they vanished. They emerged into familiar space, the original gateway still spinning with energy before them. But they weren't alone. A joint Earth-Vorn task force had surrounded the structure, weapons trained on it. Multiple ships detected, Davis reported. Earth Alliance and Vorn. They're not firing at each other. We're being hailed, Miller announced. It's Admiral Wilson. The Admiral's shocked face appeared on screen. Reed, is that really you? Reed smiled tiredly. Yes, sir. The Cipher-8 is returning to duty, and we have quite a story to tell. As Reed began his report, he realized that the ship once ridiculed as outdated had not only survived the impossible, but had forever changed 2 dimensions. Sometimes, he thought, the old ways still had value, a lesson both humanity and the Vorn would soon learn. Captain Jack Miller stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, staring at the massive space station that hung against the backdrop of stars. The station was a marvel of engineering, a spinning wheel of light and metal that housed the headquarters of the Galactic Concordat. After 30 years of humans traveling among the stars, they had finally been invited to meet with the 12 most advanced species in the known universe. "Captain, we're receiving docking instructions," said Lisa, the communications officer. Her voice was steady, but Jack could hear the excitement underneath. "Follow their lead," he ordered. "And remember what Command told us. Best behavior, everyone. We're the new kids here." The Defiant was humanity's pride, a warship that combined Earth's best technology with lessons learned from their first contacts. It wasn't the biggest or most advanced ship in space, but humans had a knack for making things work in unexpected ways. As the ship eased into the docking bay, Jack straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. This meeting could change everything for Earth. The Concordat controlled trade routes, shared technology, and kept peace across thousands of star systems. Humans needed a seat at that table. "Docking complete, Captain," reported Ben, the pilot. "External atmosphere reads normal." "Good. Dr. Reynolds, Lieutenant Reed, you're with me. The rest of you, standard protocol. Keep the ship ready." Emma Reynolds, the ship's chief science officer, nodded. She had been studying the Concordat species for years and knew more about them than anyone else on board. Thomas Reed, head of cybersecurity, looked less comfortable. He preferred his computers to diplomatic meetings. "Just to be clear," Reed said quietly as they walked toward the airlock, "we're still running the Pandora system, right?" Jack nodded once, slightly. "Standard procedure for all military vessels. But let's hope we don't need it." The three officers stepped through the airlock and were greeted by a long curved hallway. The walls glowed with soft blue light that seemed to come from nowhere. At the end stood three figures, representatives sent to escort them. "Humans," said the tallest figure, voice translated through the small devices in the human's ears. "I am Nix of the Vex." The Vex were one of the oldest species in the Concordat, tall gray beings with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished stone. Their civilization had been traveling space when humans were still figuring out agriculture. "This is Trell of the Meridians," Nix continued, gesturing to a shorter being with blue-green skin and large black eyes. The Meridians were known for their analytical minds and advanced scanning technology. "And Saren of the Elders." The third figure was hard to focus on, shifting and changing slightly, as if made of light and shadow rather than flesh. The Elders were the most mysterious species, so ancient that some said they had watched stars being born. "Welcome," said Saren, voice somehow both soft and powerful. "Your presence was requested." Emma caught the slight hesitation. "We're honored to be invited," she said carefully. "Some would disagree with that honor," Trell of the Meridians said, their words precise and clipped. "Your species is quite young, barely a century in space. Some question what you have to offer the Concordat." Jack smiled diplomatically. "We're eager to show what humanity can bring to the table." "Indeed," Nix said, without warmth. "The reception is this way." They followed their guides through winding corridors filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some looked almost human, while others defied description. Beings of crystal, light, or shapes that hurt the eye to look at directly. The main reception hall was a vast chamber with a transparent ceiling that showed the stars and nearby planets. Representatives from all 12 major species mingled, while smaller, less powerful species, like humans, stood in groups on the edges. "Stay close," Jack told his officers. "Remember what we discussed. Friendly but cautious." For the next hour, they navigated the complex waters of galactic politics. Some representatives were curious about humans, asking questions about Earth and human culture. Others ignored them completely, as if they were too insignificant to notice. The Vex representative, Nix, watched them from across the room with what Jack thought might be distaste, though it was hard to read expressions on that stone-like face. "The Vex don't think we should be here," Emma whispered. "They believe species should evolve for at least 1,000,000 years before joining galactic politics." "We've been around plenty long," Jack replied. Just because we didn't get to the stars as quickly doesn't mean we don't belong here. The elders seem to think differently, Thomas noted, glancing at Saren, who was observing them with that shifting, shadowy gaze. They're the ones who pushed for our invitation, according to intel. The question is why, Emma said. Before Jack could respond, a commotion broke out near the entrance to the hall. A younger Meridian, recognizable by the blue-green skin, had approached the human diplomatic team that had arrived separately. The Meridian was holding what looked like a small device, pointing it at the humans. "Captain," Thomas said urgently, "I think that's a scanner." Jack frowned. All diplomatic teams had been briefed about scanners. The Concordat had strict rules about scanning other species without permission, rules that existed for good reasons. "Let's get over there," Jack said, moving quickly through the crowd. Before they could reach the scene, a sharp cry cut through the hall. The young Meridian had collapsed to the floor, the scanning device clattering beside them. Their body was shaking, and their large black eyes had rolled back, showing only white. The human diplomats looked shocked but not surprised. They stepped back as other Meridians rushed to help their fallen comrade. Trell pushed through the crowd, their normally composed face twisted with anger. "What did you do?" they demanded, facing the human diplomatic leader. "We did nothing," the diplomat replied calmly. "Your officer scanned our security detail without permission. That's against Concordat law. A simple scan cannot cause this." Trell gestured to the fallen Meridian, who was still trembling and now making small, frightened sounds. The crowd had fallen silent, all eyes on the confrontation. Jack, Emma, and Thomas arrived at the edge of the scene, watching carefully. "Perhaps," said the human diplomat, "you should ask why we included a warning about unauthorized scans in our arrival documentation." Trell's face darkened to a deep blue. Anger, Jack guessed. "This is some kind of attack. Some weapon." The human diplomat shook their head. "No weapon. Just protection." As medical personnel took the shaking Meridian away, Jack heard them mumbling over and over. The darkness, the endless screaming, oceans of blood. Jack caught Emma's eye. The Pandora defense system had claimed its first victim at the Concordat. This diplomatic mission had just gotten much more complicated. "Captain," Thomas whispered, "I'm picking up unusual energy signatures. I think someone's scanning the Defiant." Jack's face hardened. "Patch me through to the ship. Now." The Concordat was about to learn why scanning human warships was a very, very bad idea. "All hands, battle stations, silent protocol." Jack's voice remained calm as he gave the order through his comlink. As captain, he knew panic would only make things worse. Back on the Defiant, red lights flashed silently as crew members moved quickly to their posts. Unlike the noisy alerts in old movies, modern human warships used light signals during silent protocol. Sound could give away too much emotion, and emotion was exactly what they wanted to hide right now. "Who's scanning us?" Jack asked, keeping his voice low as he, Emma, and Thomas moved to a quiet corner of the reception hall. "Meridian vessel," Thomas replied, checking the small device on his wrist. "Looks like they're trying to find out what happened to their officer." Emma shook her head. "They won't like what they find." Across the reception hall, more commotion erupted. Several Meridians were now gathered around communication devices, their normally composed faces showing signs of distress. One of them, Trell, looked directly at the human delegation. Their large black eyes narrowed. "Captain, I think we should return to the ship," Emma suggested. Jack nodded. "Agreed. But calmly. We don't want to look like we're running away." The three officers made their way toward the exit, nodding politely to the various alien representatives they passed. Jack noticed the elder, Saren, watching them with that strange, shifting gaze that seemed to see too much. "Safe journey, humans," Saren said as they passed. "We will speak again. After." The way Saren said "after" made Jack's spine tingle. It was as if the elder knew exactly what was happening. After what? Thomas whispered as they entered the corridor leading back to their ship. After whoever is scanning the Defiant regrets it, Emma replied. Back aboard the Defiant, the bridge hummed with quiet tension. The main screen showed the Meridian vessel, sleek, blue-green, and much larger than their ship, positioned nearby. Scan intensity increasing, reported Raj, the sensor officer. They're going deep. Let them, Jack ordered, settling into his captain's chair. Pandora status. Armed and ready. Thomas confirmed from his station. Package prepared for delivery. Full crew briefing. Jack announced. All decks. The screen changed to show all sections of the ship, where crew members paused in their duties to listen. For those of you on your first diplomatic mission, we're about to witness why the Pandora defense system was created, Jack explained. Right now, a Meridian vessel is conducting an unauthorized deep scan of our ship. In about 30 seconds, they're going to regret that decision. He nodded to Emma, who stood to address the crew. The Pandora system is humanity's most classified defense protocol, she said. After we lost 3 early colony ships to aggressive scans that stole our technology and revealed our weaknesses, Earth developed a unique countermeasure. On the screen, the Meridian ship's scan beams intensified, probing deeper into the Defiant systems. Most species try to block scans, Emma continued. We do something different. We let them in, and we give them something to take home. Thomas's console beeped. Pandora threshold reached. Delivery in 3, 2, 1. The bridge fell silent. On the main screen, the scan beams from the Meridian ship flickered, then intensified, then began to pulse erratically. Package delivered, Thomas reported. What exactly is in that package? Asked a young crew member who had joined the ship only 2 months ago. Jack turned to face her. Every horror movie ever made, every war documentary, every nightmare humanity has ever put to film or written down. The darkest imaginations of our entire species, compressed into a data stream that unpacks directly into their scanning systems. The young crew member's eyes widened. But that's just entertainment to us. Exactly, Emma nodded. What we create for fun, for thrill, for emotional release, our darkest imaginings, are more terrifying than anything most species have ever conceived, even in actual war. On the screen, the Meridian ship's lights began to flicker. They're trying to disconnect from the data stream, Thomas reported. Too late. Pandora doesn't just send the data, it forces them to process it. Will it kill them? The young crew member asked. Jack shook his head. No. The Pandora system isn't designed to kill, just to teach a lesson. Their medical technology will help them recover, though they'll have nightmares for a while. Captain, Lisa called from communications. We're being hailed by the elders. Jack raised an eyebrow. The elders rarely communicated directly with any species, let alone newcomers like humans. On screen, he ordered. Saren's shifting face appeared, somehow both there and not there at the same time. Captain Miller, the elder said, we would advise you to prepare for diplomatic challenges. The Meridians are most distressed by what they have experienced. They scanned us without permission, Jack replied. The Concordat's own laws. Yes, Saren interrupted. The law is clear. But understanding often requires more than law. We suggest you prepare an explanation for the Council, one that even those who have never experienced human imagination might comprehend. The screen went dark. They knew, Emma said quietly. The elders knew what would happen. Jack nodded slowly. Which means they wanted it to happen. Question is, why? Before anyone could respond, Lisa spoke again. Captain, emergency council session has been called. Our diplomatic team is requesting your presence, along with Dr. Reynolds, to explain the Pandora system. What about the Meridian ship? Jack asked. Returning to the station. Minimal power, Thomas reported. 3 crew members in medical stasis. Jack stood up. Thomas, you have the bridge. Emma, you're with me. Everyone else, remain at battle stations. If anyone else tries to scan us, they get the same welcome package. Thomas finished. As Jack and Emma prepared to return to the station, they passed by the ship's common area where several off-duty crew members were gathered. A display showed footage from the medical bay of the Concordat station, where the first affected Meridian was being treated. The alien was conscious now, but clearly disturbed. Its blue-green skin had paled to an almost white color, and it was restrained in what appeared to be a medical pod. They cut open their own children, the Meridian was saying, voice trembling. They imagine monsters in the dark, and then they seek them out. For pleasure. They create worlds where their own kind are hunted, tortured, consumed, and they call it entertainment. The Meridian's eyes widened suddenly, staring at something no one else could see. The human mind is not like ours. It does not just imagine victory. It imagines defeat in 1,000 horrifying ways. It does not just plan for success. It dwells in failure, pain, terror. How do they live with such thoughts? Jack turned away from the screen. Let's go explain to the council why they shouldn't peek into our minds without asking nicely first. As they walked toward the airlock, Emma looked troubled. You know, sometimes I forget how other species see us. Do you think we really are different, darker? Jack considered this as they stepped through the airlock. Not darker, he finally said. Just prepared. We've spent our history imagining the worst so we can survive it. Turns out, that's a pretty good defense all by itself. The emergency council meeting was delayed. Jack and Emma waited in a small room off the main council chamber, listening to the raised voices beyond the door. Even through the thick walls, they could hear the Meridians demanding action against the humans. They don't sound happy, Jack said, straightening his uniform for the third time. Emma was reviewing notes on her tablet. Can you blame them? 3 of their crew are still in medical stasis. From their perspective, we attacked them. They scanned us without permission, Jack reminded her. That's against their own laws. The door slid open, and a tall Vex entered. It was not Nyx, who had greeted them earlier, but another one with darker, almost black skin that gleamed like polished obsidian. I am Cora, High Commander of the Vex Fleet, the alien announced. Its 4 arms were held stiffly at its sides, and its face was unreadable, like looking at a statue. Jack stood and gave a respectful nod. Captain Jack Miller, UES Defiant. Your council appearance has been postponed, Cora stated flatly. The Meridians require time to compose themselves. We understand, Emma said. We're prepared to explain our defensive measures whenever the council is ready. Cora's head tilted slightly. Defensive measures. Is that what you call it? The Meridians call it a psychic weapon. It's not a weapon, Jack replied firmly. It's information. Data. Nothing more. Cora was silent for a moment, those stone-like eyes studying them both. The Vex have existed for millions of years, Captain. We have encountered thousands of species. None have defended themselves quite like yours. Is that a compliment or a warning? Jack asked. An observation, Cora replied. You will be escorted back to your vessel. The council will reconvene tomorrow. As the Vex turned to leave, it paused. Your ship, the Defiant. It is small, primitive by our standards. Jack smiled slightly. Appearances can be deceiving. Indeed, Cora said. The Vex do not deceive, Captain. Remember that. After the alien left, Emma looked at Jack with concern. That sounded like a threat. It was, Jack agreed. Let's get back to the ship. When they returned to the Defiant, Thomas was waiting at the airlock, his face grim. Captain, we have a situation. A Vex battlecruiser just entered the nearby space. It's positioning itself at the edge of the station's defensive perimeter. Jack's jaw tightened. Show me. On the bridge, the main screen displayed the massive Vex vessel. Unlike the elegant spinning wheel of the Concordat station, the Vex ship was a thing of hard angles and sharp edges, like a mountain of dark crystal floating in space. It dwarfed the Defiant by at least 20 times. "Are they hailing us?" Jack asked. Lisa shook her head. "No communications, Captain, but they're moving into position that gives them a clear line of sight to us." "Weapons status?" "Nothing powered up," Thomas reported, "but their positioning is suggestive." Jack studied the screen. "They're positioning for a scan. They saw what happened to the Meridians, and they don't believe it. They think their technology is better." "Should we go to battle stations?" Thomas asked. Jack considered this, then shook his head. "No, that might be seen as aggressive. Standard alert only. But make sure Pandora is ready." "Always is, Captain," Thomas assured him. The minutes ticked by slowly. The bridge crew watched as the Vex battlecruiser completed its positioning maneuver, now hanging in space with its bow pointed directly at the Defiant. "Captain," Raj called from the sensor station, "I'm detecting energy buildup in the Vex ship, consistent with scanning equipment powering up." "They're really going to do it," Emma said quietly, "even after what happened to the Meridians." Jack nodded. "The Vex are proud. They believe their technology is superior. They think they can handle whatever happened to the Meridians." "They're wrong," Thomas stated flatly. The energy readings from the Vex ship spiked suddenly. "Scan initiated," Raj reported. "Much stronger than the Meridian scan. They're cutting through our outer systems like they're not even there." "Let them come," Jack said calmly. "Everyone, prepare for Pandora activation." The bridge crew braced themselves. They had all experienced the eerie silence that fell over the ship when Pandora engaged, like the whole vessel was holding its breath. "Scan penetrating to secondary systems," Raj continued. "They're moving fast, much faster than the Meridians did." Emma moved to stand beside Jack. "Their technology really is better." "Won't help them," Jack replied. Pandora threshold reached in 3, 2, 1. "Pandora active," Thomas announced. The bridge fell silent. On the screen, the Vex battlecruiser continued to hang in space, apparently unaffected. "Did it work?" Lisa asked after a moment. "Wait for it," Thomas replied, eyes on his console. "Their systems are more advanced. It takes longer for the package to unpack, and there." On the screen, the lights along the massive Vex ship flickered once, twice, then began to dim section by section, like a wave of darkness rolling through the vessel. "What's happening to them?" asked a young crew member. "The Pandora package is bigger for bigger scans," Emma explained. "They tried to take more data, so they got more in return. Their entire system is being flooded with humanity's darkest thoughts, fears, and creations." Jack watched the screen with a grim expression. The Meridians just got a sample. The Vex are getting the full library. The Vex ship was now almost completely dark, drifting slightly from its position. "Captain," Lisa called urgently. "Incoming transmission from the Vex ship. Audio only." "Put it through," Jack ordered. The sound that filled the bridge made everyone flinch. It was a scream, but not like any human scream. It was deeper, with harmonics that shouldn't be possible from a living throat. After the scream came words, spoken in a voice shaking with terror. "Make it stop. Make the children stop screaming. The blood, oceans of blood. World's ending. Monsters in the dark. How do you live with these thoughts? How do you sleep?" Jack signaled to cut the transmission. The bridge was silent again. "Their commander," Emma said quietly. The Vex linked their commanders directly to their ships. He experienced everything. "Captain," Lisa spoke again. "Message from the station. The elder representative is requesting to speak with you." Jack sighed. "Put them through." Saren's shifting face appeared on the screen, somehow looking both amused and concerned at the same time. "Captain Miller," the elder said, "it seems the Vex have learned the same lesson as the Meridians." "They scanned us without permission," Jack replied firmly. Yes, they did. Saren agreed. And now the most powerful military force in the Concordat is incapacitated. Their flagship drifts dark. Their high commander is indisposed. We didn't ask for this, Jack said. No, Saren replied. But it has happened nonetheless. The council meeting tomorrow has taken on new importance, Captain. The Vex do not forget. The Meridians do not forgive. And the rest of us, we are very curious about a species whose mere thoughts can bring two of the mightiest races in the galaxy to their knees. The screen went dark again. Jack looked around at his crew, their faces showing the mixture of pride and concern. Well, he said dryly, I think we've made quite the first impression. What happens now? Thomas asked. Jack turned back to the screen, where the darkened Vex ship was now being approached by smaller vessels from the station. Now we find out if the most advanced species in the galaxy can handle the truth about humanity, he replied. That our greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our imagination. The council chamber was nothing like Jack had expected. Instead of a formal room with seats and tables, it was a vast circular space with a pool of glowing blue liquid in the center. The representatives of the 12 most powerful species in the galaxy stood on platforms that floated above this pool, arranged in a circle. Jack and Emma were led to a small floating platform of their own. The human diplomatic team stood on another platform nearby, looking tense. This doesn't feel like a fair trial, Jack whispered to Emma. It's not meant to be, she replied. It's a show of power. All around them, the alien representatives watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to open hostility. The Meridian platform was filled with blue-green figures who seemed to be standing as far from the human platforms as possible. The Vex platform was nearly empty. Only Cora stood there, its stone-like face showing tiny cracks that hadn't been there the day before. The elder, Saren, floated forward slightly. The emergency session of the Concordat Council will now begin. The matter before us concerns the human vessels and their defensive capabilities. A Meridian stepped forward. They used prohibited psychic weapons. 3 of our scan technicians remain in medical care. The Vex flagship is disabled. This cannot go unanswered. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Jack noticed that many of the species he didn't recognize were watching the humans with new interest. Cora of the Vex spoke next, its voice lower and rougher than before. The Vex demand to know the nature of this human weapon. Our scans detected no energy weapons, no psychic technology. Yet our ship is crippled, and our crew. The Vex paused, those cracks in its face seeming to deepen. Our crew experiences continuing mental distress. Saren turned toward the human platforms. Captain Miller, Dr. Reynolds, please explain to the council what happened when your ships were scanned. Jack stepped forward. He had prepared for this moment all night. Thank you, Elder Saren. Members of the council, what happened to the Meridian and Vex scanning crews was not an attack. It was a defensive protocol that activates only when our ships are scanned without permission. What kind of defense causes such mental distress? Demanded the Meridian representative. Jack looked to Emma, who nodded and stepped forward. The Pandora defense system is not a weapon, she explained, her voice clear and steady. It's a data package. When an unauthorized scan penetrates our systems, Pandora activates and sends information back through the same scanning beam. What information? Asked a representative Jack didn't recognize, a being that seemed to be made of slowly swirling gas. Emma took a deep breath. Human culture, specifically our entertainment, our history, our literature, focused on our darkest imaginings, horror stories, war documentaries, fictional monsters, apocalyptic scenarios. Confused murmurs filled the chamber. You expect us to believe that mere stories caused this damage? The Meridian representative scoffed. I can explain further, Emma continued. Humans have a unique relationship with fear and imagination. Throughout our history, we've created entertainment that explores our darkest fears. We imagine terrible things happening to ourselves. We create fictional monsters worse than anything we've encountered. We visualize our own extinction in hundreds of different ways. The chamber had grown quiet. Every alien representative now focused on Emma's words. When your scanning systems connected to our ships, they received a compressed data package containing thousands of years of these imaginings. Your neural interfaces, designed to help your operators process scanned data, instead forced them to experience human nightmares all at once. Cora stepped forward, the cracks in its face now clearly visible. You are saying that these thoughts, these entertainments, they come from your minds? Willingly? Jack nodded. We create them. We watch them. We read them. For fun. The silence in the chamber was complete. For fun, repeated the Meridian representative, voice barely audible. You imagine your own destruction for enjoyment. Not just destruction, Emma clarified. We imagine survival too. Overcoming. Enduring. But yes, the scenarios we create are often dark, frightening, and violent. Why? Asked a small, insect-like being from another platform. Why would you do this to yourselves? Jack considered the question carefully. Because it prepares us. Humans face our fears by imagining them first. We've found that those who can imagine the worst are often the most ready when real danger comes. Emma added, our entertainment doesn't just imagine victory and success. We imagine defeat, suffering, horror, everything that could happen to us. We prepare for it all. A new voice spoke, deep and resonant. It came from a tall, plant-like being with glowing spores floating around its head. I have studied many species, it said. None have evolved this trait to such a degree. To voluntarily expose yourselves to fear and horror, it changes neural pathways. It builds resilience. And weaponizes your minds, Cora added bitterly. Not weapons, Jack insisted. Defense. We don't broadcast these thoughts. We don't force them on anyone. They only affect those who try to enter our systems without permission. Saren's shifting form seemed to brighten slightly. The question before the council is not whether the humans should be punished. They'd followed our laws. The question is what we should learn from this incident. The Meridian representative wasn't satisfied. They may have followed the letter of the law, but their defense causes harm beyond what is reasonable. No scan should result in such trauma. Then don't scan us without asking, Jack said simply. Several of the alien representatives made sounds that might have been laughter. The plant-like being spoke again. I propose a study. Human imagination appears to have unique properties we could learn much from. No, Cora interrupted. No more scans. No more studies. The Vex turned to face Jack directly. We have existed for millions of your years, human. We have fought wars across galaxies. We have seen species rise and fall. But never have we encountered minds like yours. Cora's cracked face seemed to shift slightly, almost like an expression of pain. In our ship's database, we found a human term, nightmare. We have no equivalent word in our language. The concept did not exist for us until yesterday. Emma's eyes widened. You're saying the Vex don't have nightmares. You don't imagine bad things happening. We plan for failure, Cora replied. We calculate risks, but we do not create horror for ourselves. We do not imagine monsters that do not exist. We do not visualize our own suffering in detail. Jack looked around the chambers, studying the alien representatives. How many of you have entertainment that focuses on fear, on horror, on imagining the worst things that could happen to your species? One by one, the representatives indicated negation. Head shakes, tentacle waves, light patterns changing. None of you, Jack said softly. That's why Pandora works so well. You've never built up a tolerance to the kind of thoughts humans live with every day. The chamber fell silent again as the implications sank in. Finally, Saren spoke. The council will consider what we have learned today. Until then, a new protocol is established. No scans of human vessels without explicit permission. No studies of human thought patterns without careful preparation. The elder's shifting gaze focused on Jack. Humanity may be young among the stars, Captain Miller, but you have much to teach us about the power of the mind, both its strengths and its dangers. As the council session ended and Jack and Emma were escorted back toward their ship, Jack noticed how the other species now moved aside as they passed, creating a wide berth around the humans. "They're afraid of us," Emma whispered. "No," Jack replied. "They're afraid of what's in our heads. And maybe that's not a bad thing." 3 days after the council meeting, the Defiant prepared to leave the Concordat station. The ship had been resupplied, and the crew was ready to return to Earth with news of their unexpected diplomatic impact. Jack stood on the bridge, watching as the final checks were completed. The mood among the crew was mixed, pride in how they had stood their ground, but concern about the long-term consequences of their first meeting with the galaxy's most powerful species. "All systems ready," Captain Thomas reported from his station. "We can depart as soon as the station clears us." "Any word on the Vex ship?" Jack asked. Emma looked up from her console. "Their systems are back online. Most of their crew has recovered, though their commander is still undergoing some kind of mental treatment." Jack nodded, feeling a twinge of regret. He hadn't wanted things to go this way. "And the Meridians?" "All 3 technicians are conscious again," Emma replied. "But they've requested reassignment away from human space." The communications panel beeped. Lissa answered, then turned to Jack with surprise on her face. "Captain, we're receiving a request to board from the elder representative." Jack raised his eyebrows. "Saren wants to come aboard." "Yes, sir." "Alone, apparently." Jack exchanged glances with Emma. The elders rarely interacted directly with other species, especially not on their ships. "Grant permission," Jack decided. "I'll meet our guest at the airlock." Saren's shifting form seemed even stranger inside the human ship. The corridor lights reflected off the elder's constantly changing surface, casting unusual patterns on the walls. "Thank you for allowing this visit, Captain," Saren said as they walked. "Few have hosted an elder on their vessel." "We're honored," Jack replied, "though I admit I'm curious about the reason." Saren's form rippled in what might have been amusement. "Direct. Humans usually are. I wish to speak with you before you depart, away from the politics of the council and the fears of the other species." Jack led the elder to a small conference room rather than the bridge. Some parts of the ship were still classified, even after everything that had happened. When they were seated, Saren's form settled slightly, becoming almost solid. "Do you know why the elders supported humanity's invitation to the Concordat, Captain?" Jack shook his head. "I assumed it was because of our rapid expansion, or perhaps our technology." "No," Saren said. "Your technology is functional, but not impressive by Concordat standards. Your expansion is notable but not unprecedented." The elder leaned forward slightly. "We were interested in your stories." "Our stories," Jack repeated, confused. "Yes, for many cycles, we have observed human transmissions. Your entertainment, your news, your fictional worlds." Saren's form shimmered. "At first, we were simply puzzled. Why would a species create images of their own destruction? Why imagine horrors that do not exist? Why visualize pain and suffering and fear?" Jack smiled slightly. "As I explained to the council, it helps us prepare." "No," Saren interrupted gently. "That is what you tell yourselves. But there is more to it than preparation." The elder rose and moved to the small viewport, looking out at the stars. "The species that survive longest in this galaxy, Captain, are those that can adapt. Not just physically, but mentally. Those that can imagine new possibilities, even terrible ones, and then work to prevent them. You're saying our imagination is an evolutionary advantage. More than that." Saren turned back to face him. "It is rare. Most species evolve to avoid pain, to avoid fear. They develop technologies to eliminate suffering, to prevent negative thoughts. They become comfortable. Safe. The elder's voice took on a hint of sadness. And then they stagnate. Jack considered this. And humans don't do that. Humans, Saren said, run toward the dark. You create it in your entertainment. You explore it in your art. You face it in your thoughts. And then, this is the crucial part. You work to overcome it. You imagine 1,000 apocalypses, and then you fight to prevent them all. Jack wasn't sure what to say. He'd never thought of human imagination as particularly special. The incident with the Pandora system has created quite a stir among the Concordat species, Saren continued. Some fear you. Some wish to study you. Some wish to avoid you entirely. And the elders? Jack asked. What do you think we should do? Saren's form rippled again. We think you should continue being human. Continue imagining. Continue creating your stories, both dark and light. The elder moved closer. But be careful who you share them with. As you have seen, not all minds are prepared for the places yours can go. A gentle chime sounded, indicating the ship was ready for departure. I should go, Saren said. But before I leave, there is something you should know. What's that? The Vex commander, Cora, after experiencing your Pandora system, it asked for human stories. Voluntarily. Jack blinked in surprise. What? Why? It said, to understand the enemy, one must think like them. Saren's form shimmered in what seemed like amusement. But I suspect there is more to it. The Vex have existed for millions of years without facing their deepest fears. Perhaps they sense what we elders have observed, that there is strength in confronting the darkness, not just avoiding it. As Jack escorted Saren back to the airlock, the elder had one final comment. There will be new protocols established for all Concordat vessels approaching human ships. No scans without explicit permission. Filtered data exchanges only. Special buffer systems for all communications. Sounds sensible, Jack agreed. Indeed, though I suspect the real rule, spoken quietly among captains, will be simpler. Saren's form rippled with what was definitely amusement now. Don't peek into the humans' minds. You won't like what you find there. As the Defiant pulled away from the station and prepared to jump to faster than light speed, Jack gathered the crew for a final briefing. Our mission has changed, he told them. We came here looking for allies, for technology, for trade. We're leaving as something else entirely. What's that, Captain? Asked the young crew member who had been so surprised by the Pandora system. Jack smiled slightly. A mystery, a warning, a species that the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy have decided to treat with caution, not because of our weapons or our ships, but because of what's in our minds. Emma joined him at the front of the room. Earth Command will want a full report on the Pandora incidents. They'll want to know how the aliens reacted, what we should expect going forward. And what will you tell them? Thomas asked. Jack looked around at his crew, humans all, with minds full of dreams and nightmares, hopes and fears, light and darkness. I'll tell them that humanity has found its place in the galaxy, he said. Not as the strongest or the fastest or the most advanced, but as the species that dares to imagine the worst and then works to make sure it never happens. As the Defiant jumped to FTL, heading back to Earth, the story of the human ships, and why they should never be scanned, began spreading throughout the galaxy. In diplomatic circles, a new saying emerged among the advanced species: to know the human mind unprepared is to lose one's own. And aboard their ships, human crews continued watching horror movies, reading frightening stories, and imagining all the ways things could go wrong. Never realizing that this simple habit, this relationship with fear and imagination, had become their greatest defense among the stars.